Coyote the Trickster, the Deceiver of all things. Prologue. The trickster who brought chaos. Before the sun was set into the sky, before rivers knew how to flow and forests how to sing, before humans learned to call each other by name, this world was nothing but a void. No light, no laughter. No one knew why they existed. All was drowned in a heavy slumber of chaos, a stillness so terrifying it felt like the universe had frozen between its first and final breath. The early beings didn't cry, didn't laugh, didn't hunger or feel full. They existed like silent shadows, drifting past one another, leaving no trace. And then a raspy laugh echoed. Not loud, not clear, but just enough to startle the wind, enough to make the earth tremble, and enough to awaken time, which had never stirred from its sleep. That laugh belonged to a creature unlike any other. He walked on 4 legs but acted like one with 2. He had fur the color of ashes, a tail long as a wind-swept trail, eyes darting with mischief, and a crooked grin as if he knew every secret others didn't. His name was Coyote. No one created him. No god summoned him. No one invited him to this world. He came on his own, like a strange wind sneaking through a mountain pass. He lived by trickery, by false promises, and by a burning desire to change everything. And then he began to stir things up. Coyote had no plan. He followed no rule. But everywhere he set foot, things began to move. He played with the shapeless moon, dragging it along the ground until it became round. He threw stones into rivers so water would ripple. He whistled until the wind got angry and roared across the plains. He didn't create life, but he forced life to awaken. He tricked the thunderbird into flying low, bringing down the first rains. He stole fire from the stone dragons and threw it into humans' bellies. He bent the horizon and taught people to look beyond, dream beyond, where they stood. And because of that, the gods despised him. To them, order was sacred. The universe needed silence to be stable. The chaos that Coyote carried was a threat. He was cursed as the bringer of trouble, the liar, the bearer of calamity. But in stories passed down by firesides thousands of years later, the old ones would smile. He was the one who opened the way, they whispered, because without Coyote, who would teach us to make mistakes and then how to fix them? Who would make us angry so we could learn to forgive? Who would steal what we thought was eternal, just to teach us how to cherish? He was the most foolish, and yet the wisest. He was both destroyer and creator. He could tear down the sky and lift it back up. He shattered order so that something better could rise. Many native cultures called him by different names: Trickster, Raven, the Norse Loki, Hanuman of the East, but they all carried the same spirit. one who stands outside all laws to create what has never existed. And among them all, Coyote is the purest form of chaos. So today, when you hear the tale of Coyote, don't try to understand him. Don't try to predict what he'll do. Just listen. Because in every trick, every foolish mistake, every punishment, curse, or stumble, you'll see that is how this world changes. And how you do too. The story begins here, with the moment Coyote decided to steal the light and tear apart the eternal night. Not to be a hero, not to be worshipped, but simply because he thought the darkness was just too boring. Chapter 1: The Thief of Light. Long, long ago, when the world was still drowned in darkness, there was no sun, no moon, no stars, only endless night stretching on like a curse. Every creature moved in silence, groping through the shadows. Eyes grew dim. Hearts grew cold. But Coyote, as usual, couldn't stand the boredom. He sat alone on a hilltop, gnawing on a grouse bone and sighing. This darkness, it's too much. I can't even find anyone to trick. What a drag. An old turtle shuffled by, his head bobbing with each slow step. Coyote narrowed his eyes and called out cheerfully, "Hey there, Uncle Turtle. Why are you crawling around in this darkness? Don't you get tired of it?" The old turtle mumbled, "Because we have no light, Coyote. It's always been this way, since the time of our great-great-grandparents. The light is well hidden. It's not for the likes of us. Who's keeping it? The Sun People, on the hill to the west. They keep the light sealed in great clay jars, guarded day and night. Only they can use it." Coyote snapped his fingers. "Perfect. I'll steal it." Old Turtle recoiled in shock. "Coyote, are you mad? They are gods." Coyote grinned mischievously. If they were real gods, why would they be so stingy, keeping the light to themselves? "I'm just going to borrow a little, for everyone's sake." That night, Coyote crept silently up the western hill. His steps were light as wind. He transformed into reeds, into pebbles, even into a cicada buzzing in the night to distract the guards. At last, he reached the light cache, a large hut with 3 giant clay jars glowing faintly like embers. The first jar held daylight, bright and blazing. The second contained moonlight, gentle like the breath of mist. The third imprisoned starlight, sparkling specks that shimmered as if they were winking at him. Coyote licked his lips. "All 3? No, too obvious. I'll just take one." He reached out to lift the lid of the sun jar when, crack, he stepped on a dry twig. A voice boomed, "Who's there?" The gods came running. In a panic, Coyote snatched the smallest jar, the one with the stars, and bolted. Shouts rang through the hills. Footsteps thundered after him. Coyote ran like the wind, his heart pounding like a war drum. Behind him, the thunder god hurled clouds of wrath. The wind god spun tornadoes to block his path. The earth god cracked the ground into deep ravines. But Coyote thought he loved being chased, loved the chaos his silly games could stir up. As he ran, he yelled, "I only took a few stars, just so folks can see where they're going. Ha ha." As he neared the edge of the mountains, a lightning bolt struck him square in the back. The jar flew from his hands, tumbled down the slope, and shattered. Light burst forth like a silent explosion. Tiny stars shot up into the sky, caught in the black dome above. From that night on, the sky was no longer pitch black. Stars began to shine, twinkling, eternal. The gods arrived to find Coyote sprawled on the ground, smoke rising from his charred backside, still laughing. The thunder god roared, "Who do you think you are, to lay hands on our sacred light?" Coyote panted, grinning wearily. "I'm just someone tired of the dark, who wanted to give the world a little sparkle." The gods raised their weapons, ready to strike. But then they looked up. The once empty sky now glittered like a living canvas. The gods fell silent. Even they had to admit it was beautiful. They spared Coyote's life, but cursed him to never find peace. He would always be hunted, always wandering, always the outsider. Coyote just chuckled. Well then, that just makes life more fun. So now, whenever you gaze up at the starry night sky, remember, it was the gift of a trickster. A rogue who dared to laugh in the faces of gods. The fool, yes, but the first fool brave enough to bring light into darkness. His name was Coyote, the Thief of Light. End of Chapter 1. The Thief of Light. If you think Coyote is both infuriating and somehow lovable, give this video a like. Share the story with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss Chapter 2, Coyote and the Great Fish-Smelling Fiasco, where he tries to learn how to fish and accidentally causes a flood. Chapter 2, Coyote and the Failed Sniffing Fish Hunt. After stealing the stars, Coyote became a legend. Every creature in the forest whispered about him, the trickster who dared to challenge the gods. But to Coyote, that was the past. He was hungry, really hungry. For days, not a single dumb rabbit to trick, no lost grouse to chase. Just a growling belly and a scrambled brain from starvation. Gotta find something to eat, or I'll starve to death. He dragged himself to a stream where plump fish were swimming happily. Coyote's eyes lit up like he'd found a gold mine. Fish. Oh man, they're so fat. I don't know how to catch fish. He looked around. No net. No trap. No fishing rod. Gotta use my brain. Then Coyote came up with the greatest plan ever. At least, that's what he thought. He took a big branch and carved it into a wooden spoon. Then he stood in the stream, raised his arms to the sky, took a deep breath, and shouted, "Hey, you dumb fish! Today I'm gonna sniff you out and catch every last one." The fish dove to the bottom of the stream, nervously peeking up. An old fish whispered to the little ones, "Sniff us? Is he nuts?" Coyote started sniffing. He bent over the water, inhaling deeply, sniffing until he got dizzy, even choking on water a few times. Field. Fish scent. "I got it. One on the left." "No, right side." He scooped water with the wooden spoon, flinging it into the air, trying to catch an imaginary fish. Of course, nothing but splashes hit his face. But he didn't give up. "Gotta sharpen this nose. I'm Coyote. I can sniff out lies. Fish can't hide from me." All day long, he spun, sniffed wildly, scooped endlessly. The fish gathered at the bottom, laughing hysterically. One tiny fish said, "Is he dancing or losing his mind?" Another replied, "Should we prank him?" The fish teamed up. They all released stinky fish bubbles to the surface. Coyote froze. "What's that? Fish smell? Strong. A whole school." He dashed in like a maniac, splashing, diving, flailing everywhere. Flush, flush, flush. After a while, he floated up, gasping for breath, bruised all over, but swollen, and still hadn't caught a single fish. The fish at the bottom laughed so hard, some almost choked on the water. That night, Coyote lay on the riverbank, soaked, shivering, belly still flat. "Am I useless? Can't trick anyone, can't catch fish. I'm not even a real trickster anymore." He looked up at the sky. The very stars he had once stolen twinkled gently. Were they mocking him? Encouraging him? Coyote muttered, "I once laughed in the face of the gods, escaped lightning and volcanoes. Why let a bunch of fish laugh at me?" He jumped up. "Gotta change tactics." The next morning, Coyote held a stick and knocked it hard on the rocks to make a "talk, talk, talk" sound. The echoes spread across the stream. The curious fish popped up, seeing Coyote wearing a mask and a fur coat, looking like a shaman. He chanted, "Oh foolish fish, I am the fish god, the one who created you." The fish whispered, "Now what? Watch out, another trick." Coyote continued, "You've eaten too much algae. Nature's balance is broken. Whoever volunteers will be reborn as a flying fish, soaring to the skies, far nobler than ordinary fish." A naive young fish swam up. "Really? We can fly?" Coyote grabbed his spear, but missed. The fish twisted and zipped away, giving him a tail slap to the face. Smash. Coyote's face swelled up, mask fell off, nose twisted sideways. The fish shouted, Liar! Get him! A whole school of fish leapt up, slapping water at Coyote's face. He panicked and fled, yelling, "It was just a joke. I was just hungry. Spare me." From that day on, whenever someone passed by the stream and heard splashes of water, they knew the fish were retelling the tale of Coyote and his failed sniffing hunt. Still laughing to this very day. End of Chapter 2, Coyote and the Failed Sniffing Fish Hunt. If you think the more Coyote loses, the more hilarious and clever he gets, then don't forget to like this video, share the story, and subscribe to the channel to catch Chapter 3, When Coyote Fooled Death, where he tries to outwit death to live forever, but ends up opening a door no one expected. Chapter 3, When Coyote Tricked Death. On a freezing morning, when the sun hadn't yet risen, Coyote suddenly woke up, startled by the hoot of an owl and the howling wind through the trees. It wasn't because he was hungry. It wasn't because he was cold. It was because he had dreamed he was dead. Not in a glorious way. Not tragically. Just sitting there, chewing on a rabbit bone, then flopped over. He sprang up, trembling. "No, that can't be. I'm Coyote, the one who stole the light, the one who laughs in the face of gods. I can't die like a squirrel falling from a tree." But the fear didn't fade. So in the days that followed, Coyote wandered through the forest, searching for death, the mysterious being feared by every tribe, yet whose name none dared to speak. Some said death rode the wind each night. Others said death was a gray-skinned woman carrying a clay jar full of souls. Coyote didn't care. "I will find him, and I will trick him, like I always do." And then one day, by the edge of a deep, dark abyss where no creature dared to go, Coyote met. He wore a cloak of night, his face pale as snow, his eyes void of emotion. His voice echoed like it came from ancient cliffs. "Why have you come here, Coyote?" Coyote tried to keep his voice steady, though his heart pounded. "I just wanted to talk. There's something I'm curious about." "Speak. How do you know when it's time to take someone?" Death didn't answer right away. Then he raised his hand and pointed to a gray feather floating between them. "When that feather falls to the ground, I will come. But what if it never falls? Then life continues." Coyote's eyes sparkled. That night, he returned with another one of his brilliant plans, to fool death itself. He took that gray feather, tied it to a string, and hung it upside down from a branch. "If the feather never touches the ground, I will live forever." He danced around, laughing madly. "I'm immortal. I'll never die. I'll never go hungry again. I'll never tremble in fear again." But then, the first day passed. He was happy. By the third day, he was bored. By the 10th, he was tired. And by the 20th, Coyote went mad. No one dies, but no one truly lives either. Trees didn't shed their leaves. Animals didn't hibernate. Fish weren't eaten. Tigers stopped hunting. The whole forest stood still, trapped in an eternal curse. An old deer lay down, whispering, "Why can't I go? I've lived enough." A giant tree moaned, "My leaves are rotting, my trunk is hollow, yet I must stand." A child in a tribe whispered to his mother, "Why hasn't Grandpa gone to the sky yet? Why is his body still here?" Coyote heard it all, and he couldn't laugh anymore. At last, he quietly returned to the edge of the abyss. The feathers still hung there, swaying gently. Death appeared as if he had never left. "You have seen, I have seen," Coyote choked, "that life without death is just a nightmare stretched too long." He untied the feather from the string and released it into the air. It floated gently to the ground. A breeze swept through. Death bowed his head. "Thank you, Trickster." Coyote gave a slight nod and walked away without saying a word. Since then, people say Coyote no longer feared death. Not because he was brave, but because he understood death is not an enemy, but the keeper of rhythm in life, the drumbeat that makes the universe dance, the door that must close for another to open. End of chapter 3. When Coyote Tricked Death. If you felt the deep lesson hidden within Coyote's foolish tricks, don't forget to like the video, share the story, and subscribe to the channel to catch chapter 4, When Coyote Stole Fire, where he dares to sneak into the Sky Dragon's cave to bring the light back to humankind. Chapter 4, When Coyote Stole Fire. There was a time long, long ago, when humankind lived in darkness, when nightfall was a fear that cloaked the mountains and forests. People trembled in the cold, ate raw meat, and couldn't even see each other's faces. And fire, that blazing light like the sun, was kept hidden, guarded by a powerful tribe born of thunder and sky dragons. They stored fire deep within a cavern, guarded by two-headed snakes, flame-eyed eagles, and rivers of living lava. No one dared approach. No one even dared to dream. Coyote, "It's not fair," he howled into the night forest. "People need fire to live, not just to stay warm. They need light to see each other clearly, to understand one another, to see themselves." An owl hooted from above. "But Coyote, that is the fire of the gods. To take it is to rebel against heaven and earth." He scoffed. "Then let me become the rebel." And so he began to plan. A reckless plan, unthinkable to many, yet carrying within it the hope of the entire world. Coyote journeyed from tribe to tribe. He went to the rabbit people, the bird people, the deer, the fox. "I'm going to steal fire," he declared. Everyone widened their eyes. "You're mad." "Yes. But if madness brings light, then I welcome it." Then he looked each one in the eye and said, "But I can't fly like eagle. I can't leap like rabbit. I can't weave through trees like fox. I need you. When I grab the fire, help me spread it to every corner of the world." That night, Coyote climbed the ancient volcano alone, the place where the first fire had been struck down by the thunder god. Every step he took, the earth beneath burned his paws. Every breath scorched his lungs. But he pressed on. At the mouth of the fire cave, he hid behind a boulder, watching the guardians of light. A giant serpent, smoke pouring from its mouth. A fire eagle, its wings booming like thunderclaps. And deep inside, the first fire, a brilliant red spark dancing like a living being. He couldn't fight, couldn't break in by force. But he was Coyote the Trickster. He threw a rock down the volcano's side, causing a crash like a landslide. The guardians rushed off to investigate. In that moment he leapt into the cave, seized the fire with a hollowed-out log, one he'd prepared beforehand, coated with pine resin to make it burn long. But just as he turned to run, a roar shook the heavens. The guardians had spotted him. The fire eagle soared after him, flames chasing like a crimson storm. Coyote ran with all he had. Through forests, across hills, over rivers. With every step, the fire in his log blazed bright. Every time he nearly fell, he shouted, "Eagle, now it's your turn." An eagle swooped down, snatched the fire, soared into the sky. But its feathers began to burn. It cried out, "Rabbit, take it now." The rabbit jumped up, caught the fire, and raced across the plains. Its fur singed, its ears scorched. Then the fox, then the squirrel, then the deer. The fire was passed on from paw to wing to hoof, like a torch of hope that could never be extinguished. At last, Coyote collapsed at the forest's edge. His fur was charred, his mouth parched, paws blistered. But when he lifted his head, he saw smoke rising from the villages, fires dancing in every hut, children laughing as they saw the first light of night. And for the first time ever, humankind no longer feared the darkness. He burst into laughter. Though in pain, though burnt, he laughed like a joyful madman. "I did it," he whispered. "Fire is no longer for the gods. Fire belongs to the people." And they say, from that day on, Coyote's fur bore the marks of the flames. Rabbit's ears stayed long and scorched. Eagle's feathers were never quite whole again. But no one complained, because they had all helped bring light to the world. End of chapter 4, When Coyote Stole Fire. If this story inspired you and made you see fire or sacrifice in a new light, please like the video, share this spark with others, and subscribe to the channel to catch chapter 5, When Coyote Created the Stars, where Coyote's mischief goes so far, he accidentally paints the entire sky. Chapter 5. When Coyote Created the Stars. Sometime after Coyote stole fire and brought light to humankind, he lay stretched out on a mountaintop, gazing at the night sky. "There's fire on Earth now," he muttered. "But the sky is still as dark as an owl's cave." He sighed. "Why is there nothing up there but that boring round moon?" And then a new idea sparked in Coyote's mischievous mind, an idea both brilliant and disastrous. He would create the stars. He began wandering across the land, collecting leftover bits of light from the strangest places. Silver glimmers from fish scales in the river, the glow of morning dew, the sparkle from owl eyes and butterfly wings at dusk. Little by little, Coyote gathered them into a large leather pouch, wrapping it in spider's silk and mountain moss. He called it the Bag of Light. One silent night, Coyote climbed to the tallest peak of the sacred mountains, the place where the moon and sky came closest, to carry out his wild plan. "I will scatter light across the sky, so people won't be afraid of the dark anymore. And so the night can be just as beautiful as the day." He opened the bag, pinched out one tiny spark at a time, and tossed them into the night. One by one, they soared upward. They twinkled. They stuck to the sky. One spark, 2, 3, hundreds, then thousands. And soon the sky began to glow, as if Coyote's footprints had been stamped across its skin. Everything might have been perfect, if not for Coyote's infamous impatience. After tossing half the bag, he started to grumble. "Great spirits, this will take me all night. I'm Coyote, not an ant with infinite patience." Then, in a typical flash of recklessness, he hurled the entire bag into the sky. Whoosh! The bag spun through the air, burst open, and boom! Light exploded. A wild shower of stars burst out in every direction. The sparks flew, scattered, and stuck themselves randomly across the heavens. And just like that, strange, nameless constellations began to appear. Some stars formed the shape of a person pouring tea. Others looked like a goose doing somersaults. Still others seemed to show Coyote scratching his back. Some clusters were bright. Some were dim. Some were just for random dots. Right then, the sky gods appeared. A flash of brilliant green light swept past. From within it, the great bear stepped out, his fur glowing with white clouds. "Coyote, what are you doing to my sky?" Coyote shrugged. "Just making it beautiful. Looks artistic, doesn't it?" The thunder god roared. "It's chaos, disorder, no structure." "True, there's no map," Coyote winked. "But can anyone say the sky isn't beautiful now?" The gods looked at each other, then back at the sky. Strangely, even in the randomness, There was a sense of freedom and wonder, like a child's drawing, clumsy, innocent, yet able to make grown-ups smile. And so they say, the stars were created by Coyote. The chaotic ones came from his impatient toss. And the beautiful constellations? Probably accidental. But most of all, the night sky was no longer dull. People would lie on their backs, gazing upward, telling stories through the stars. There's Coyote fleeing from the thunder god. There's the mountain where he sat in the wind. And that's his bag of light sailing past the moon. The world changed again. This time, not through fire, but through imagination. Coyote, the trickster, the troublemaker, the often foolish, was the one who lit up the heavens with his wild, wonderful mind. End of chapter 5. When Coyote created the stars. If the night sky feels a little more magical now, give this video a like, share the story with anyone who's ever dreamed under the stars, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss chapter 6, when Coyote tricked death, where he dares to do the unthinkable, fool death itself. Chapter 6, when Coyote tricked death. No one knows how old Coyote is. He once wandered through dense forests, crossed deserts, rode on the back of the wind, and raced with the sunset. But one day, when the moonlight faded and the wind stopped whispering, Coyote suddenly felt weary knees, tired feet. He sat by a cliff, gazing into the distance. I once stole fire, created stars, fooled humans and gods alike. But then what? I still have to die? Coyote didn't like that idea. Not one bit. So he decided, if death is inevitable, then he would trick it. That night, he set out for a place no one dared to enter, the Valley of Shadows, where death resides. There stood a giant gate made of white bones, guarded by darkness and silence. No one knows what death looks like. They only say that when he arrives, the wind ceases, birds fall silent, and all creatures bow. Coyote, of course, did not bow. He knocked on the bone gate, grinning wide. Hey, Death, come out and play a game of chess with me. A voice answered, cold as ice. The living may not speak my name. Why have you come? Coyote whistled, yawned. I heard you take the souls of those whose time has come. But I don't have a time. I came to negotiate. Death appeared. A tall figure, cloaked in starless night, holding a staff twisted from the first dead tree in the universe. You think you're different, Coyote? Of course. I'm not just different, I'm an expert negotiator. Coyote held out 3 items. A tongue that could lick stones until the ice melts. A flute that could lull lost dreams back home. A dog bone, which Coyote claimed belonged to the dog that once barked at death. He smirked. In exchange for one thing, give humankind a second chance. Let death not be the end. Let them have a way to return or live on through memory. Death looked at him, silent. Coyote raised an eyebrow. Bros, I'll play another game. Tidisk, perhaps? You sure you could find me? Death, for the first time in endless time, laughed. A laugh like wind blowing through ashes, cold, cracked, but with a hint of amusement. You're insane, Coyote. But fine. I will grant humans a small passage. From that night on, when someone dies, their soul does not vanish immediately. Some become beautiful dreams lingering in their loved ones' minds. Some transform into spirit animals guiding the lost. A few, just a few, return through stories told over and over again. And people call them living memories. Coyote, having sealed the deal, clapped his hands in delight. But I may not be immortal, but at least I outlived death. Death asked, And you, Coyote? You didn't ask for yourself? He winked. I never die. Sometimes I just nap inside old tales. Then I wake up in a child's imagination. They say, sometimes you'll hear laughter in the wind. Sometimes, in a dream, you'll see a sly dog talking to the moon. Sometimes, in your darkest hour, someone tells a story that makes you laugh and believe again. That's when Coyote returns. He never left, only hid in memory, waiting for you to call his name. End of chapter 6, When Coyote Tricked Death. If you've ever lost something but still feel it alive in your heart, perhaps Coyote was there. Like this video, share this chapter with someone you want to keep in your memory forever. And subscribe to the channel to watch chapter 7, When Coyote Spread Chaos. Chapter 7, When Coyote Spread Chaos. After tricking death and laughing his heart out, Coyote felt something was missing. Fooling creatures? Too easy. Fooling gods? Been there, done that. Now it's time to shake the whole world. One day, he heard that the tribes were preparing a great peace ceremony. All the chiefs, shamans, and elders were gathering to swear an oath of no war for the next 100 years. Coyote frowned. This? That sounds boring. No screaming, no running chaos, no one fighting anyone. What's left for me to enjoy? So, he decided to drop a single drop of chaos into the world. Just a tiny one, but enough to make everything explode. He disguised himself as a blind old man, hunched over with a cane, and quietly stepped into the tent where the ceremony was held. No one noticed him. And that was their first mistake. As the chiefs were joining hands, reciting the oath under the bright sun, the blind old man, Coyote in disguise, cleared his throat loudly. Ahem, excuse me, but it seems someone among you is hiding a knife behind his back. The entire tent went still. A young warrior immediately turned to the neighboring chief. Are you really hiding a knife? The chief glared back. What did you just say? I came here with a pure heart. The blind man smiled. Has anyone ever seen him not carrying a knife? No one answered. Because, truthfully, everyone had always harbored doubts. They had just buried those suspicions beneath handshakes and smiles. And Coyote, with one simple sentence, had unlocked the chest of mistrust. Within just an hour, the peace ceremony turned into a shouting match. Warriors drew spears. Shamans cast curses. Chiefs withdrew their oaths. And Coyote? He stepped outside, removed his blindfold, and laughed till his ribs hurt. Just one word, and the world reveals its true face. But the chaos didn't stop there. Coyote continued his journey, carrying a sack of disorder. Inside it were a mirror that reflected not your face, but your deepest fear. Comb that made anyone using it believe they were more beautiful than anyone else. And a little snake that whispered, "Everyone's talking about you." He scattered these 3 items across villages, towns, and mountains. Where there was a mirror, there was arrogance. Where there was a comb, there was jealousy. Where there was a snake, there was suspicion. Soon enough, people stopped trusting one another. Brothers doubted brothers. Friends competed with friends. Even couples in love started dissecting every word the other said. But strangely enough, even though chaos spread far and wide, not everyone fell apart. An old woman smiled after looking into the mirror. "Oh, I'm still as ugly as ever, and that's exactly who I am." A child tossed the comb into a stream and said, "My hair's messy, but my heart is neat." An old man, kept awake by the snake's whispers, finally sat up and said, "Enough. I know who I am. I don't need you to tell me." When Coyote returned to Golden Valley, where he had once sown chaos into a big wedding, he saw something strange. That very couple, instead of fighting, was laughing together. "Thank you for your mischief, Coyote. It helped us realize what truly matters." Coyote was stunned. He scratched his head. "How did this end so beautifully? I meant to cause chaos." An old man passing by patted his shoulder. "You planted seeds, yes. But you don't get to control what grows. Some seeds become poison. Others become medicine." Coyote sat under a tree, for the first time in ages, not knowing how he felt. Part of him was frustrated. The plan didn't go as intended. But part of him was warmed, because amidst the chaos, people had learned to listen to themselves. He nodded. "Maybe. I am the world's test. Those who pass grow stronger. Those who don't still learn something. So, the next time your life feels tangled, your heart filled with doubt, and people look at you strangely, maybe, just maybe, Coyote passed by. To see if you can find the truth hidden inside the chaos." End of chapter 7. When Coyote spread chaos. Have you ever faced a moment of chaos that helped you grow? share your story with us. And don't forget to like, share if this story moved you, and subscribe to the channel to watch Chapter 8, When Coyote Met Himself. Chapter 8, When Coyote Meets Himself Again. There was one thing Coyote had never done in his life. So he ran endlessly, jumping from one prank to another, from one lie to another transformation. Always changing, always deceiving, always moving forward, as if the past could never catch up. Until one day, the sky offered no more roads to travel. Coyote stood before a towering cliff, with the vast desert stretching endlessly behind him. No detours, no shortcuts, and worst of all, no one left to trick. Strange, he mumbled. Where's the wide world gone? Why is it so quiet here? A voice echoed from his very shadow. Because you've gone too far from the world, Coyote. Now there's only you and yourself. For the first time, Coyote didn't turn into anyone else. He didn't disguise himself as a god, didn't become the wind, didn't turn into stone, didn't transform into thunder. There was only a furry, dusty creature, with eyes that once schemed, now reflecting confusion. He sat down in front of his own shadow and asked, "Who am I, really?" The shadow answered, "You are the storyteller. The one who breaks things and then watches as the world heals itself. You are the trouble, the laughter, the lesson wrapped in wild howls. But am I good?" Coyote asked. "Am I bad?" The shadow remained silent. For a creature like Coyote couldn't be measured in terms of good or bad. He was the question, not the answer. He began to recall all the times he had tricked others. Tricking the eagle into dropping the sun just to make the day last longer. Leading the buffalo to run endlessly just to bet with the wind. Teaching humans how to be afraid, then teaching them how to love. Coyote laughed. But this time, it wasn't a mocking laugh. It was a quiet laugh, as though someone had finally understood the joke that had lasted 1,000 years. That night, the full moon hung in the sky, glowing with a purple hue. Coyote looked up and asked, "So, what's left for me to do? What prank still needs telling?" And the moon answered with its own light. In the moonlight, Coyote saw. He was alone, but never meaningless. The next morning, Coyote left the cliff. He didn't run, didn't jump, didn't howl. He just walked quietly for the first time, not to mislead anyone, but to find his way back to himself. On his journey, he met those who had once been his victims. An old wizard whom Coyote had tricked with a fake magic potion now smiled at him. "Thank you. Because of you, I learned to make potions from my own failures." A little girl whom he had tricked out of her dinner now offered him a piece of bread. "I was hungry all night because of you. But because of that, I learned to grow my own food." A young wolf who once envied him now said, "Coyote, you are a living lesson. No one forgets you." Coyote didn't respond. He just nodded and kept walking. No one knew where he was going. All they knew was, from that day on, whenever a strange laugh echoed in the forest, or when a lesson arrived when least expected, people would say to one another, "Coyote just passed by." Not to destroy, but to awaken. And sometimes when the night falls, if you sit alone by the campfire, listening to the wind blowing through the trees, perhaps you'll hear a whisper, "I'm still here," not to harm, but to remind you that the world always changes, and people must learn to laugh amidst that change. End of chapter 8. When Coyote meets himself again. If you've ever seen yourself in a coyote, in the laughter, in the mistakes, or in the moments of realization of deeper meaning, share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel to continue watching the next inspiring stories.